been talking about the race row that exploded over the last week. We want to talk now about the Rooney Rule, because I want to explain first of all what it is. I have a bugbear. I think a lot of people are pontificating on it, they're against it, but they don't know what it is. So let's have a look at what it is in detail. Here it is. The Rooney Rule requires NFL teams with senior coaching vacancies to interview at least one candidate from an ethnic minority. It was established in 2003 after a study found that minorities held just 6% of senior coaching positions in America, despite forming a majority in playing staff of 70%. Within 3 years of implementing it, the percentage of African American coaches had risen to 22%. So we can see the benefits of having it in America. The issue for me is that we do need it in this country, because we do need to actually mine the talents that young black coaches and the potential they have of being managers. But a lot of people are against it because they think it's imposing quotas. Roberto Martinez and Arsene Wenger have both had their say on this. Let's hear from Roberto Martinez first.
Well, I don't know about that. I don't think nobody's been stopped. I think due to your nationality, I think, or your race. I think we are a very open community, and I think it's just looking for the best person for the job. And I've never seen that as been an issue. So I don't know if that has to be something that we need to actively look into it. From my point of view, is always looking for the best person for the job, and I never consider race or nationality or any other sign of that type.
I am always been against discrimination. Is it positive or negative? What they called in France positive discrimination. I feel no matter what job you do in life, you should just do it because you deserve to do it and because you have the quality to do it. And you have to favorize access to everybody to manage football, but just to put a quota out for me is exactly against what sport has to be. Sport is about competition and competence, and that will have exactly the opposite effect that what it should have, because it's you can say as well then, why do you leave him out? He's better than the guy who's in place just because you have a quota. It's again a kind of racism, you know, and what we have all to fight for is just competence. Put people who are good, are they white, black, red, no matter what color, just put the guys who have a competence in charge, and we have to fight for that.
Can I just ask why you don't think, well, why you think there are not more black managers in British football?
I don't know. Personally, for me, they are welcome. I don't see any difference between black and white, or I could never understand that difference, you know. And you judge people on facts and on what they did in life for people, and I never considered where you come from or what color you are. You just think if you're good enough, you help people. If they have a good attitude, you help people. And but I believe as well we have to keep the priorities right. That means people who want to do a job, who have the qualities to do the job, to give them the job.
We've been rowing in the studio while you've been watching that, because I think Arsene Wenger has misunderstood the concept of the Rooney Rule. I never thought I'd see the day I'd say Arsene Wenger's misunderstood something, but the Rooney Rule is not about quotas. It is not about shoehorning black candidates into jobs, giving it to them on a plate. What it is about is saying if a vacancy becomes available, you include a competent black candidate on the shortlist and you interview them. They might not be right for the job, and if that's the case, you don't give them the job. But it is not about giving jobs to black coaches or black managers on a plate. What's so hard to understand about that, Claire?
Can we just clarify, it's not just about the black candidates, it's any ethnic minority?
Yes,
that's
ethnic minority candidates.
So the important distinction here is just if there is a pool of candidates, one of the candidates who comes from an ethnic minority needs to be interviewed.
Yes.
So they need to get through that first stage into the second phase. My question is, it may have worked very well from that rise from 6% to 22% in the NFL, but you're not comparing apples with apples.
Why?
Because
Sorry to interrupt.
No, after you.
70% of the workforce in America in NFL was black. So there again, as they grow and they get older and they stay in that field, you're going to have, say, more apples to choose from. Now what we want to do in England is get more black players playing, more black players coaching, more black coaches, managers.
That doesn't hold water. That argument doesn't hold water. We already have a substantial black representation in the Premier League, in the Championship, and in Leagues 1 and 2.
Yes, and in time.
And also, we have a rich
15,
history.
20
We have
years
a rich
behind
history of
the
black
NFL.
players coming through and showing themselves to be good leaders, good strategists.
Right, but how many of them wanted to be managers?
Well, a large proportion of them
See,
wanted
this is
to
where I
become
think the Rooney
managers,
Rule.
but they've just not had
I
the
think you look
chances
at the
to.
Rooney Rule and you open the gate and you invite ethnic minorities to apply for the job, knowing that they're going to be on an equal footing.
Let's just stop something here. We keep saying ethnic minorities to be politically correct. We're talking about black candidates.
Not just black, though.
Well, in theory, it's not just black, but at the moment we have black footballers and white footballers.
Yeah, okay.
Here's my question. Have we looked at the number of black candidates who are coming through the FA's coaching ranks? Is it that they actually aren't even aspiring to be coaches?
No, I think that's really patronising, Claire, because I think as far as black players are concerned, what's happened is they've come through the ranks just like white players. But what happens is when they go for a job, and say they go for a job, they either don't get it, or if they fail, they don't get another chance at all. If you're a white player and you go for a job and you fail, you get back on again. You look at guys like Steve Bruce, you look at guys like Brian Robson, they get on and on. Alan Kirbishley, okay, he might not have done well at West Ham, but, you know, everyone still basically gets him back on. And that's not because he's a bad manager, but that's because people appreciate what he has to offer.
But Paul Ince,
why don't they do that with other managers?
But Paul Ince.
What about Paul Ince?
And all of a sudden, in your argument there, I felt that you was actually making excuses for black individuals because they didn't get the job. It was because they were black. It might just be that they weren't good enough.
But we have that with white candidates,
okay, well,
and still they manage to get jobs
Dons,
time and again.
Blackburn,
and
Notts County, he's had 3 in 5 years.
No, he's had 3, but look at the amount of time he's had to wait for those between those.
But he didn't really have to wait. He went from MK Dons straight to Blackburn.
Yes,
and
then
Blackburn,
after Blackburn, he didn't go straight to Notts County.
But
wasn't
that's
long.
not necessarily about the colour of his skin.
No,
well, how do we know?
Well, we
How
don't.
do we know?
We don't.
We have such a small representation, and everyone keeps saying it's not about the colour of their skin.
Sure.
But where are the numbers in the Premier League? Where are the numbers in the Championship?
And that's why I was inquiring before. Do we know whether or not there's equal standing of black to white coaching candidates who are actually coming through the system?
I can tell you of lots of players who have gone and taken their badges, like Earl Barrett, Uge Ehiyog. I can tell you of Paul Davis. There are people who go, they take their badges, and then when they're done, they do not get the opportunity to get
and I think this is where the
management.
Rooney Rule will come in, because it will be logged. All of a sudden, these people will be going, and it will show that they were given opportunities. Now, if in a year's time we're sitting here and we see that there's an increase of 50% on application, not on actually getting the job, but 50% on application, then there will be some that will go through. We're even talking about Paul Elliott becoming maybe the first black chairman. So we are moving down the right road.
What I can't understand is somebody puts this forward. I would have thought football would just say, okay, everyone gets up in arms and says, why do we need this? What's this all about? Football is having to be dragged kicking and screaming toward this. That's what worries me.
Agreed. There is something inherent in football that they do not like change. They're scared of it. People react quite negatively to new rules in place. You know, why on earth is football the only mainstream sport not to have adopted technology? It's the same stuff. We are
indeed
archaic.
Stuck in the dark ages, and we need to change that. I'm sure we're going to debate the Rooney Rule many more times when we've got a lot more time here on the Sports Tonight show. We're going to